Hello everyone, I'm Aaron from DataStax, and today I'm here to present to you migrating an enterprise e-commerce site to the Table API Part 5 category navigation. In this one, we're going to focus on the left navigation that you usually see on a large website, particularly one that's an e-commerce site trying to sell you products. To make it easier for you to maybe kind of navigate through and kind of see what you want, if you don't want to search for it. So, bearing that in mind, let's go have a look and see what we can do here. So, if we have a look at our e-commerce site, what you're seeing here when you first get to the site, really, and we kind of covered this in the first video, I think, is the featured product system that's really getting used here. But if you go ahead and click the products tab up here, what you'll get is a drop down that has all of these other categories in it. So like, clothing, you have hoodies, t-shirts, jackets. So if I go into clothing and then I click on t-shirts, this is the product category navigation at work here. So it's showing everything that it has in there for t-shirts underneath clothing. So this is the system that we're going to work on today. All right, if I go back to Astra and have a look at the CQL console. And let's go ahead and use e-commerce. And we want to describe table category. So this is the table that we're going to be working with today. As you can see, it has a parent ID for its partition key, which is a UUID. Also has a category ID as its clustering key, and that is also a UUID. As its payload columns, it has a special image, has a name, and then it also has a product list underneath. So if I go ahead and do a select from this, let's just say select star from category, and we'll say limit 1. We have our image, and we have, this is the DataStax 2015 MVP hoodie. And the products underneath are this, are each of the sizes that the hoodie comes in. So just so you have a little bit of understanding of how the data looks here. If I get rid of that limit 1, let's just go ahead and have a look at everything. You can see that we don't have, things like images and product lists for everything. And that's because, like in this one, it's just clothing, and over here, our t-shirts. And if you have a look at, you can see that this is the overall parent or root product ID, or sorry, root category ID. Here is the category ID for clothing. And if I go down to hoodies and t-shirts and jackets, you can see that the parent ID for those is the category ID for clothing. So yeah, that is a little bit about how this works. But if you go down and you have a look at some of the individual shirts and things that are in here, like the MVP hoodie that we looked at before, here you can see that this is its category ID at the product group level. And this is its parent ID, this 6A4D86AA UUID, which you can see is right here as the category ID for hoodies under the parent ID of clothing. So that's just a little bit about how the way that this table is built can support multiple hierarchy levels. So it's really up to the merchandisers and the marketers as to how they want to present this on the website. If we get back to our code here, the first thing that I'm going to have a look at is the current category POJO, or plain old Java object. And I'm also going to bring up maybe one of the other entity classes that we built here. Just so I have a reference. What we're going to do is start by creating a new table entity class for the table API. So let's just go new class. And we're going to say category, table, entity, just like that. All right. So let's go ahead and copy that entity table annotation, and we're going to note that our table is named category, just like that. Let's go ahead and grab the existing properties from the category Pojo and also drop them in here. Next, let's have a look at what our primary key annotations are going to be. So I can get rid of this. Let's have a look at price table entity. You can just kind of copy that partition by. And if you remember, our partition key here is parent ID. So let's paste that and say parent ID. And, you know, just to be consistent, let's move that to the front. And our clustering key is category ID. Let's also move that. Oh, that here as well. Let's go back to our entity class and grab our partition sort and column annotations. There we go. And category underscore ID is going to be the name of our column there. And I think the rest of these should be okay. So let's go ahead and generate our getters and setters. And select all and generate. There. All right. Our entity class is now complete. So you can get rid of that. Okay, next let's have a look at our data API configuration class. Here is where we have definitions for all of our tables. So let's just go ahead and create one here for our category table as well. So we'll say bean table.category, and no, we don't want to do all that. Let's say public table. This is going to be category table entity, table category. Yeah, the rest of that looks okay. Let's go ahead and import our category table entity class. All right, so our data API configuration is ready. Let's go ahead and now adjust our data API services. So we can go, yeah, here we go. Let's go ahead and say auto-wired qualifier table.category, table category table entity, category repository, and let's go ahead and import that entity as well. All right. And if we go down to the bottom here, past the cart options, let's go ahead and save what we have. But if we have a look at the category REST controller, we actually have, let's see, so we have find categories from parent ID, and that takes a parent ID, right? Then we also have find by parent ID and category ID, with the two of those as options as well. So those are going to be our repository methods. All right, so let's go back to the data API services class. So let's say public list, find category IDs by parent ID, UUID parent ID. Wow, Copilot did a really good job on this one. Yeah, that looks correct. Let's give that one a shot. And then our other method is going to be public list category table entity, and we're going to say, actually, How have I been naming these? Oh, okay, in the repository level, I've been naming them as gets. So let's do a get, just like that. And then we can also say get categories by parent ID and category ID, just like that. Okay, now, if you'll recall from one of our last sessions here, we did have an issue with using the inline filters like this. That wasn't working so well. Let's just have, okay, we are going to want to set up a filter object for both of these. So let's go ahead and say filter, new filter, and we're going to call this parent ID, and then let's just replace that and say there. Okay. And this one is going to be very similar. Yep, new filter, map of parent ID, category ID, category ID. And then let's take our filter and replace that. Okay. Our data API services should be good. Now let's have a look at the category REST controller. So the first thing we're going to want to do, let's go ahead and get rid of the Spring Data Cassandra category repository that we have here. And instead we can say private data API services. Let's go ahead and import that. And then let's say, there we go. And we'll inject the data API services object as a repository, and Spring will wire that up for us automatically. Now, of course, we have some errors, but that's because, well, that a lot of what we've just done doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and say list category table entity. And we want to replace this with, actually, let's just say categories like that. And oh, we probably have to import that. Yep. There we go. And now we can say data API services, get categories by parent ID. Now let's go categories. We'll replace that there. And then we'll replace that there. Now our mapper is currently not working, but we'll fix that in just a second. Okay, let's go down to find by parent ID and category ID. And same thing here. Let's go, oh, look at that. Copilot knows what's going on. How about that, huh? All right, let's replace list of category entity with list of category table entity, just like that. Okay, we have the same issue with the mapper, but to fix that, we're just going to adjust it and say category table entity. And here we have appropriations for our primary key object through Spring Data Cassandra, which we're not using. Let's just do C dot there and C dot there. Okay, everything should be good. Let's go ahead and test this out at the command line first. All right, let's go ahead and run our code here. All right, the site is running. Let's go ahead and check out our database quick. So we'll say use e-commerce, and we'll say, let's go select star from category, and we'll go back to limit 1. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab this first row's parent ID and category ID, and we're going to use those in just a second here. All right. That should be good enough. We can exit out of there. Now, let's go ahead and try a curl command to test out our two methods that we just migrated. Let's say curl -x get, and we'll say http ://127 0.0.1 port 8080 /API v1 categories, and this is where we're going to paste in our parent ID. Oh, my bad. This was actually the category of hoodies. Let me back up one little here. So let's go back. Let's say select star from category. Okay. Let's find just the one. Yeah, for clothing. Here we go. Yeah, here's clothing. So let's grab that. And we can also grab our root parent ID as well. And let's just let's simulate a navigation here. Let's go ahead and start with our root parent ID. So if I just run for this, what do we get back here? We get okay, clothing, and then we get wall decor and tech accessories and cups and mugs. All right, so we have the top level category navigation here. So let's go ahead and up arrow that. And now from here, let's say that we've clicked on clothing. So we're going to go ahead and grab this ID right here, and that's going to be our new parent. There. Now, as you can see, we get back hoodies, we have t-shirts, and we have jackets. All right. So what if I want, let's run this one more time. There we go. Let's go ahead and grab t-shirts right here. Let's paste that in. There we go. Now we actually have enough to get to the product level. So here we get all of the individual sizes for each of these shirts that come back. And specifically the one we're looking at is this Your Face Auto Wired t-shirt. So this is just a quick example of what, category navigation can look like. Now let's try that second method. So let's say we go, actually let's back up. Here we go. We'll go clothing, and then we will use t-shirts for our parent ID, which is this one. Oh, so it's categories, category. So I need them both in there, evidently. API. Well, let's try this again. All right. Let's go to here and say categories like that. Hey, there we go. Okay. That took a little bit of work there. But as you can see, we are able to do a V1 categories category and send in our parent ID of clothing, send in our category ID of t-shirts, and we were able to get back a payload that said, hey, we are at the t-shirts level. This is the category ID that matches up with what we just asked for. Here's the default image we're going to show, parent ID, and at this point, we're not deep enough to have a product list, so that comes back as null. All right, so both of these endpoints are in fact working. And now if we go back to the website, let's go ahead and make sure this works. So we'll say products, and we can say hoodies, and yep, our hoodies come back, and products, and t-shirts, yep, products, and jackets, outstanding. And of course I can click into one of these and yep, see these come back, extra large, add to cart. Hey, I might like a black hoodie, outstanding. All right, that should do it, folks. All right, everyone. In this video, we looked at migrating the category navigation system from using Spring Data Cassandra into using the DataStax Table API. As you can see, it was very similar to a lot of the systems that we'd migrated previously, and we were able to move pretty quickly on this one and test it out just fine. All right. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. Want more information on modernizing your self-managed Cassandra deployments? Head on out to datastax.com/modernize-apache-cassandra-workloads, and you'll find all the information you need on keeping your self-managed Cassandra cluster updated and in top running form. Thank you, and have a great day.